Hey guys, Aaron Cybertron Zhang here, and today I'm back with another episode of Road to Rank where I climb the online VGC 15 ladder. Today I got my hands on a Adamant Landers Tea and a Modest Heatran, so I'll be trying those two out, supporting it with the cast of Hydreigon, Kangaskhan, Bisharp, and Sylveon. Unfortunately, I had a couple of games for fun before recording this episode, and my rating fell down a bit, so it's slightly under 1800, so I'll be trying to make that climb back there. I will be featuring new Mega Pokemon very soon. I've actually trained up a bunch and gotten teams ready, but for now I want to try out the legendaries. Of course, I've been using Landers Tea for a while, but I've been using Choice Band with Careful. Cheesecake's going to be my opponent, girl from Michigan, 1679 rating, with a team of Mawile, Ludicolo, Chandelure, Terrakion, Noivern, and Chestnut. Definitely a really interesting team. Two grass types in Ludicolo and Chestnut. Chandelure, potential Trick Room option. Terrakion, really fast. Noivern, also really fast. And the Mawile. So, that's a very interesting team. Pretty weak to Sylveon, bar the Mawile. I'm tempted to lead with Sylveon. I think I'm going to go for Sylveon as my lead. Next to it, I'm tempted to go with Hydreigon just because it's Scarfed. Though he's got the two fighting types. Let's see. Heatran is pretty solid here, other than the if I can knock out Ludicolo and the Terrakion, and Bisharp does really well against those. So definitely leading with Sylveon. Actually, I'm going to lead with Sylveon Kangaskhan. If I can get a power-up punch off, it's going to be really bad for my opponent. Landorus in the back, and I think Bisharp for my last one. It's between Bisharp and Hydreigon. Hydreigon's actually not bad either, and that way it gives me a better way to Earthquake with the Landorus. So yeah, I'm going to go Kangaskhan, Sylveon, Hydreigon, and Landorus Tea. All my Pokemon do relatively well in this matchup, though. I'm thinking maybe Bisharp would have been a bit better, but I do want the Scarf option from Hydreigon to outspeed his entire team, which is important to me. Earthquake really helps against his Chandelure, Mawile, and Terrakion as well. And yeah, I think Kangaskhan Sylveon's a really threatening lead. The only thing that really scares Kangaskhan, of course, are the fighting types he's got. And what do I have to beat the fighting types? Sylveon, which of course is fairy and super effective against those. So, we'll see how this plays out. And yeah, if Kangaskhan could get a power-up punch off, he can just knock out things with Double Edge and even Sucker Punch. So, we'll see what my opponent leads with and go from there. And I did bring Hydreigon because I often want a Pokemon that can resist my Earthquakes or not be affected by it. He's actually going to go with his double fighting lead, Terrakion and Chestnut, which is obviously great for a Sylveon Kangaskhan lead. So, very, very fortunate that I managed to get this lead matchup. I'm just going to go for a Hyper Voice, and I'm going to switch into Landorus Tea to get the Intimidate on both of his physical type Pokemon. In retrospect, maybe Bisharp would have been a better choice over Kangaskhan as my last one, but I wanted to lead with Kangaskhan just to put on offensive pressure, because Kangaskhan can one-hit KO Ludicolo and Noivern with Double Edge. So it was in the option that my opponent decided to lead with that, but you decided not to. You just brought the double fighting, which obviously, like I said, Sylveon matches up perfectly against. And even if he brings in Mawile Chandelure to try to resist that Hyper Voice, Landorus Tea here is going to be able to come in for free, and it can just Earthquake freely next turn. So definitely a rough position my opponent's in right now, and it really looks like Sylveon's game to take here. And with an Intimidate on both the physical type attackers, there's really no way he can prevent the Sylveon, or at least KO it. However, he can get a Rock Slide flinch there with Terrakion. And it looks like Terrakion's actually going to come out, so a good play there as Chandelure comes in. So it's going to come into, like I said, take that Hyper Voice, but once again, Chandelure doesn't really face well against Landorus Tea. And this Landorus Tea is max speed, admin nature though, and the Intimidate here is going to help out against Chestnut. And let's see whether Chestnut switches or not. Probably not. As he goes for the Spiky Shield. Okay, so good play there to prevent any damage, as Chandelure here is just going to take a bit of chip damage from the Hyper Voice, but that's as good of a play as my opponent could have made that first turn, but Hyper Voice still does so much damage there. And now I'm just gonna, oops, did not mean to go for Helping Hand. I'm gonna Hyper Voice and just Rock Slide, and there's really not much my opponent can do to prevent this. And no safe switch-ins in the back, other than maybe Mawile, but Chandelure should still go down after this turn. Terrakion can't come in, Chestnut's gonna be knocked out. And this game is just kind of showcasing the power of spread damage. Though if Chandelure is potentially Choice Scarfed, it could have an HP Ice or even get an Overheat off, so we'll have to see what item Chandelure is carrying. Doesn't look very bulky based off how much damage it took off that Hyper Voice. Chestnut's coming out now. Let's see if Mawile's coming in. Yep, Mawile does come in, so at least my opponent's making the smart switches to prevent too much damage in the immediate of the game. But now it comes down to what Chandelure goes for. No Protect, and it's not faster than the Landorus, so it's going to take a Rock Slide here. Ooh, just misses out on the KO. Chandelure gets a Will-O-Wisp off here against the Landorus, so nice play there, but this Hyper Voice should KO the Chandelure and still do a lot to the Mawile. Yeah, look how much damage that the Choice Specs boosted Hyper Voice did to Mawile there. That's unbelievable. So I pick up another KO, or not a KO, the first KO of the game, but very good position I'm in right now. Once the Mawile goes down, Sylveon just sweeps through, but Sylveon's already sweeping through, and my opponent doesn't really have many answers to it, and it should actually outspeed my opponent's Mawile as well, so definitely a very, very bad position for my opponent. And I've still got Kangaskhan and Hydreigon in the back, but of course those aren't really the best Pokemon to have against a Fairy type and 2 Fighting types, but we'll have to see what comes in here. I would guess still Terrakion. Yep, Terrakion does come in. I'm just gonna Hyper Voice, and I'm gonna switch out Landorus to... Let's see. I'm gonna go to Kang. I don't really need Kang in this match anymore. I don't want my Hydreigon getting KO'd by a potential Predict. And I just want to get a Hyper Voice off here. I think Hyper Voice can actually KO Mawile in the range that it's in. Of course, it is going to get some bulk after Mega Evolving, but even if he KOs my Sylveon, I can just bring in my Landorus once again for a free Intimidate against all his physical attackers. Mawile here is going to Mega Evolve because why not? And let's see what he goes for. Terrakion just goes for the Rock Slide, actually missing Kangaskhan. It's going to connect with Sylveon, though. That's definitely the one my opponent needed to hit more. Hopefully Sylveon doesn't flinch here. It doesn't, and it gets the Hyper Voice off. That's going to seal things up, I think. Yep, just picks up 2 knockouts there on Terrakion Mawile. So Sylveon has claimed every KO of the game so far. So both of those Pokemon are going to fall. Chestnut's going to come out, and once again, Sylveon's going to manage to just deal with that pretty perfectly. So... very clean win from Sylveon out here, which showcases how powerful it is if you don't have a way to stop it. I think it could be absurdly broken. That's why every team should have at least 2 to 3 ways to beat it. I'm just going to Hyper Voice, and in case he protects, I'm going to Power Up Punch my own Sylveon, but he is going to, or she, excuse me, is going to forfeit there. So I'm going to manage to take a 4-1 win in the first game of the day where Sylveon took every KO. So spec Sylveon, guys, make sure you know how to beat it, because otherwise things like that happen. Yeah, so I think my opponent's weakness there was not having a way to outspeed Sylveon and for it to one-hit KO. So that definitely really hurt my opponent, and I took full advantage of it, you know? So I'm going to look for the second opponent of the day now. And we'll see. But yeah, Spec Sylveon, it's still just so powerful. You know, I actually have Kangaskhan and Bisharp and Heatran just because I hate playing against Sylveon, and I think those are all really solid against it. Even Landorus T is decent just for damage output, but Sylveon does a lot of damage back out to Landorus, so if you can outspeed Sylveon and KO it, that's really good. And Kangaskhan, of course, is still one of the most popular Megas. It is the most popular Mega, actually, in VGC 15. And like I mentioned, I'm going to be trying out more Megas soon. I do want to go back to Salamence. I've revised Salamence set a bit. Lopunny and Gallade would be kind of cool to try out too. Swampert looks kind of fun. But I'll be working on using new Mega Evolutions in future episodes. I also got my hands on a bunch of more legendary Pokemon like Suicune and Entei. And both of those have been featured in the series, but not on my side. So I might finally build around those. I think that would be pretty fun. I got a Terrakion too, which was featured in the last match. But I think Terrakion's really solid. It's a pretty good check to a lot of the common Pokemon out there, especially Kangaskhan, obviously, which it can just outspeed and one-hit KO. So, second opponent of the day is going to be Lynn from Virginia with a rating of 1515. It's got a team of Walrein, Landorus T, Sylveon, Talonflame, Gloom, and Blaziken. So, I have really no idea what to expect. Doesn't exactly look like the most competitive team, but obviously you should never underestimate what your opponent has. But that's a very wacky team for sure. So, once again, not a match that Heatran wants to come in because of the Landorus and the Blaziken, but I still might bring Heatran. Let's see. It depends what I want to lead with. Leading with Landorus here is really good, I think. I definitely like leading with Landorus. And I'm thinking of pairing it with Sylveon. Yeah, there's not much you can do to really stop Landorus Sylveon from just sweeping. Bisharp or Kangaskhan in the back. I like Kang. And Hydreigon would be really good, actually. But you know what? I'm going to bring Heatran. It can wall 4 of his 6 Pokemon, so why not? So, very interesting team from my opponent, but we'll see how competitive it really is. And of course, his rating wasn't exactly the highest either, so I'm not really expecting much, but hey, you never know. So Landorus and Sylveon comes out. Landorus and Blaziken on my opponent's end. Shiny Blaziken, actually. So it's going to get the Intimidate off. We're both going to Intimidate each other. My Intimidate goes first, indicating that I'm either faster or we speed tie. Presumably the speed tie, but you never know. But we'll find out after these first couple of turns. Here I'm just going to go for a Rock Slide and a Hyper Voice. There's really not much my opponent can do to prevent this. And once again, just that damage output from these spread attacks just racks up so much. So we'll see whether my opponent has a way to really stop what's coming. Blaziken, probably the Mega Evolution. There was no other Mega Evolution my opponent could have had, but even if it is, Mega Blaziken I think is pretty bad. So you know, it's just weak to Intimidate, can't pick up one-hit KOs. Sylveon can one-hit KO with a Hyper Voice, which is why I don't think it's very good. And he doesn't have many good ways to deal with this Sylveon, especially because both of his physical type attackers are intimidated. Blaziken here is going to protect, and it's not going to Mega Evolve, though. Excuse me. As my Landorus does get a Rock Slide off, and it's going to connect with his Landorus. -1, but Choice Banded. Let's see how much damage that does. A solid amount. As my Sylveon is faster than Landorus. Okay. As he goes for the U-turn. So I'm guessing this opponent's not very competitive. There's really no case a Landorus should be outsped by a Sylveon. But we'll see how the remainder of the battle goes. That was a lot of damage I got right to start off the battle, and his own Sylveon's going to come in here, so that's a good Pokemon to have in the back. Also shiny, so lots of shiny Pokemon on my opponent's end. As Blaziken does get that speed boost. So, based off what I have in the back, I'm going to definitely switch into a Heatran, which can take Sylveon's attacks nicely, and go for the Hyper Voice, hoping to pick up this KO on Blaziken. I don't want Landorus taking a Hyper Voice, or a Fire-type attack from Blaziken, in case Blaziken chooses to target that spot. So, Heatran's going to come in here for free, as that is going to be Mega Blaziken, so my opponent opting not to Mega Evolve last turn, Mega Evolving this turn. And that shiny Mega Blaziken coming out. That's the first time I'm actually playing it in Oris. As he goes for the Flare Blitz. Okay, targeting the Sylveon. Good target there. Should not KO at -1. As it doesn't. And bulky Sylveon coming through here. As I'm going to get a Hyper Voice. That should knock out his Blaziken and do a lot of damage to his Sylveon. Yep. Actually with a critical hit too. So excellent turn for me there. As he's probably going to get a Hyper Voice off as well. That's probably going to knock out Sylveon. But we'll see. As it does. So, trading knockouts there, but I knocked out his Mega Evolution, which is obviously better. As Heatran comes in for free, and it's going to heal a nice amount from that leftover. So, glad I brought Heatran to get that safe switch in, but he's still got Landorus in the back. I need to knock out Landorus. Excuse me. But once his Landorus goes down, Heatran kind of just sweeps through, and he's in a very bad position. Since my Sylveon actually outsped his Landorus, I can just safely target that spot. Intimidate coming out from both ends here, but doesn't really matter. Since both of his Pokemon are at so low HP now, I'm just going to Heat Wave and Rock Slide. And he's going to stay in with both, just allowing my Landorus to get this Rock Slide off. And it KOs the Landorus, which means this game's over because my opponent has no way to beat Heatran. And his Heat Wave's going to connect here as well, so it's going to knock out the Sylveon. So, Choice Band Landorus and Leftovers Modest Heatran really pulling through in the first episode I'm featuring them in, which is cool. Like I said, Heatran is one of the best ways to counter Sylveon out there, and you saw how much Sylveon dominated in that first game, so you should consider running it if you can get your hands on one. It has interesting speed tier, can outspeed the common Bisharp as well if you invest enough into it. Talonflame coming out as my opponent's last one, which Talonflame can't really touch the Heatran. So I'm just going to play it safe, going to switch out Landorus and Heat Wave, just to ensure that I get an Intimidate in, you know, why not? Though at this point, I have the win guaranteed anyway, so I probably could have just Rock Slided and Heat Wave there, but whatever. But like I said, Talonflame really can't touch the Heatran, so that's why I like Heatran too, a lot too. He actually Brave Birds the Heatran, trying to get some damage off there with Brave Bird. Does a decent amount actually. I'm guessing that's Life Orbed. Yep, it is. As I'm going to get this Heat Wave off, and it should do a decent amount despite the resistance since it's single target. Yep, putting it in KO range basically. And Leftovers is a really nice item on Heatran too, because you see here I've healed back so much the last couple of turns. So I'm just going to go for a Heat Wave and Protect here. So my opponent did end up having pretty competitive Pokemon, but definitely either not IV'd or EV'd properly, especially given how slow that Landorus T was. I mean, even if you're running a slow Landorus T, Sylveon outspeeding it is kind of outrageous, especially since Sylveon doesn't have much speed investment. So I'm going to win the second game, 3-1. So pretty quick episode for you guys today, but I got to feature, Landorus T, Heatran, which is always cool, Sylveon as well. Some interesting team choices on my opponent's end. Probably one of the less competitive episodes, but still fun. As always, if you guys enjoyed the video, please leave a like, and I'll see you next time. Alright.